"Mum, it's a trap. Don't sign anything." Those 6 words, whispered by my 11-year-old daughter across a glass conference table in Chicago, stopped time itself. The architectural blueprint I was about to sign, my life's work, fell from my trembling hands. My business partner's fountain pen froze mid-signature. And my husband Vincent's face, for just 1 second, his mask of concern shattered, revealing something I'd never seen before: pure, calculated triumph. The sleek boardroom overlooking Lake Michigan fell silent. Even the attorney stopped typing. Everyone stared at the girl in the Navy school uniform, her small shoulders heaving, her eyes locked on mine with a desperation that broke my heart. In that single moment, through those 6 words from my own daughter, I understood that my entire empire had been built on lies, that the man I'd given 20 years to had been systematically planning my destruction, that my closest friend had been playing me for a fool, that I was trapped in a nightmare designed specifically for me by the 2 people I trusted most. But how did we get here? How did a woman who built skyscrapers end up watching her own life collapse? Hello friends, welcome to our story. Before we start, please like this video and subscribe. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from. New York, Los Angeles, maybe Toronto or London? We want to know. Victoria Hayes had always believed that excellence was enough. Excellence was enough to build an empire. Excellence was enough to raise a child. Excellence was enough to make someone want to be better, work harder, stand by you. She was 43 years old, and she had spent her entire adult life believing in the goodness of people, especially the goodness of Vincent. They met at Northwestern University in Evanston. Victoria was 20, a brilliant architecture student from a working-class family on the south side of Chicago. Vincent was 22, a charming business major whose family owned a construction company in Lincoln Park. When they first met during a campus design competition, Vincent didn't just notice her. He studied her like she was a blueprint he needed to understand. "You're going to change Chicago's skyline someday," he had said, watching her sketch impossible buildings. "And you're going to help me build them," she had shot back. By graduation, they were inseparable. By 25, they were married at the Chicago Botanic Garden. By 30, Victoria had her own architectural firm, Hayes and Associates. Now, 20 years later, Victoria sat in her corner office on the 47th floor, overlooking the morning sun glint off the glass towers she had designed. And she felt empty. She was one of Chicago's most successful architects. Her buildings defined the city's modern landscape. The River North Cultural Center, the new West Loop residential towers, the stunning Millennium Park extension, all bore her signature innovative style that blended cutting-edge design with respect for Chicago's architectural heritage. She was also the mother of the most perceptive, brilliant little girl in the world. Maya was 11 years old, with her mother's sharp mind and her father's disarming charm. She was quiet in a way that made people lean in to hear her wisdom. She noticed everything. She felt deeply. Sometimes Victoria worried that Maya carried too much weight on her young shoulders, but Maya had always been Daddy's princess. She followed Vincent everywhere, laughed at his jokes, begged to visit his construction sites even though the noise frightened her. Vincent was successful, very successful. He had taken his family's modest construction company and turned it into Castellano Construction, one of the largest building firms in the Midwest. Together, they were a power couple. Chicago Magazine had featured them as the city's dream makers. They lived in a stunning penthouse in the Gold Coast, one of Chicago's most prestigious neighborhoods. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Lake Michigan. Italian marble countertops, custom furniture from New York. A private terrace where Maya could read. Vincent's study, with walls lined with contracts worth hundreds of millions of dollars. They had everything, except happiness. Real happiness. For the past 8 months, something had shifted. Vincent started working later, 10 p.m., midnight, sometimes not coming home at all. He'd kiss Victoria's cheek and disappear into his study, his voice low on phone calls. When she asked what was so urgent, he'd smile. Just a big New York contract. Very demanding. You know how it is. She did know. She was an architect. She understood demanding clients. So she didn't complain. She just waited. But something was wrong. She could feel it in her bones. One Tuesday afternoon, Victoria's phone buzzed during a site inspection in the Loop. A text from Rebecca, her best friend since Northwestern. I need you. Now, please. Rebecca, her ride or die, her sister by choice, the woman who knew her better than anyone except Vincent. I'm coming, Victoria texted back, already heading to her car. Rebecca lived in a beautiful brownstone in Lincoln Park, about 15 minutes away. When Victoria arrived with her spare key, she found Rebecca in the living room, face in her hands, shoulders shaking with sobs. Becca, what happened? Victoria rushed over, wrapping her arms around her friend. Rebecca looked up, eyes red and swollen. I'm so tired, Vic. Tired of being strong. Tired of pretending I'm okay. Tired of being alone. Victoria held her tighter. In their 23 years of friendship, she'd only seen Rebecca cry like this a handful of times. Rebecca was the strong one, the one who always had it together. You're not alone, Victoria said firmly. You have me, always. They sat like that for a long time. Finally, Rebecca pulled back and looked at Victoria with an intensity that was almost frightening. How did you get so lucky? Rebecca asked. With Vincent? How did you end up with someone who loves you so completely? Victoria paused, choosing her words carefully. I think sometimes the universe just aligns. You'll find your person too, Becca. I know you will. Rebecca rested her head on Victoria's shoulder. What would I do without you? You'll never have to find out, Victoria promised. Over the next few weeks, Rebecca and Victoria became even closer. Rebecca started calling multiple times a day. She'd show up at Victoria's office with lunch. She'd send funny memes. She'd arrive at the penthouse with wine when she sensed Victoria needed company. And Victoria reciprocated. She brought Rebecca soup when she was sick. She sat through difficult meetings. She celebrated every win like it was her own. One evening at a wine bar in Wicker Park, Rebecca reached across the table and took Victoria's hand. I love you, Rebecca said suddenly, her eyes glistening. You and Maya, you're my real family. The only family that matters. Victoria felt tears spring to her eyes. I love you too. You're my sister by choice. Always? Rebecca asked, her voice breaking. Always, Victoria promised. No matter what happens, I will always be here for you. Rebecca smiled, and it was radiant, the smile of someone who had finally found where they belonged. In that wine bar, with Chicago's city lights glittering around them and the sound of jazz filling the air, these two women made a silent promise of eternal friendship. Victoria had no idea that the hand holding hers would soon help destroy her. She had no idea that the eyes looking at her with such devotion were already part of a plan to take everything. She only knew that she had found her person, her true friend, who would stand by her no matter what. She was so completely, devastatingly wrong. 3 weeks later, Vincent came home early, 5 p.m. instead of his usual 10 p.m. He was holding a bouquet of peonies, Victoria's favorite flowers. Hello, my beautiful wife, he said, kissing her forehead. Victoria looked at him cautiously. This wasn't like Vincent lately. What's all this? I've been thinking about us, Vincent said, his voice tender. About how much I love you. About how I want to celebrate our 20th anniversary properly. Their anniversary was in 2 weeks. Victoria had almost forgotten. I want to take you to dinner, Vincent continued. Alina, you've always wanted to go. And I want to invite some people. People who matter to us. Rebecca, of course. And maybe my attorney, Thomas, and his wife. I think it would be good to celebrate with friends. Victoria's stomach churned. An attorney? At their anniversary dinner? Why do we need to invite your attorney? She asked carefully. Because he's a good friend, Vincent said simply. And I think it's time we started entertaining again. Living our lives. Don't you? It made sense. It was reasonable. But something screamed danger. Okay, Victoria said finally. If that's what you want. Vincent smiled and kissed her. Thank you. I knew you'd understand. But she didn't understand. She was terrified. The night of the anniversary dinner arrived with dark Chicago clouds and the threat of a storm. Victoria woke up feeling sick, her stomach churning. Maya clung to her all morning. Mum, will you be okay tonight? Maya asked. Of course, sweetheart. Aunt Rebecca will be there with me. Maya seemed to relax slightly at that. That evening, Victoria dressed in a stunning navy silk dress, styled her dark hair in elegant waves, and put on the sapphire necklace Vincent had given her for their 10th anniversary. Vincent appeared in a tailored Tom Ford suit. He looked handsome, like the man she'd married. You look stunning, he said, embracing her from behind. I love you so much, Victoria. Remember that, no matter what happens tonight. I love you. No matter what happens tonight. Those words chilled her to the bone. Alina was breathtaking. The 3 Michelin star restaurant was intimate and elegant, with abstract art on the walls, and innovative cuisine that was more art than food. It should have felt romantic. Instead, it felt like walking into an ambush. Rebecca was already there in a stunning burgundy dress. She embraced Victoria warmly. You look gorgeous, darling. Stay strong. I'm here. Thomas and his wife were charming. They talked about architecture, Chicago politics, their children. Everything felt normal. Until Vincent stood up with champagne. I want to say something, he announced. This woman here is the most important thing in my life. She has given me everything. Tonight, I want to celebrate her. To Victoria, my wife, my partner, my world. Everyone raised their glasses. Rebecca squeezed Victoria's hand, but Victoria was trembling. As the main course arrived, Thomas put down his fork and pulled out a leather folder. Victoria, Vincent and I have been working on some documents, he said smoothly. Legal paperwork regarding your firm and some asset transfers. Nothing serious, just protecting your legacy, making sure everything is properly structured for tax purposes and succession planning. Victoria looked at Vincent. His face was blank. What kind of documents? She asked. Property transfers, Thomas explained. Power of attorney provisions, asset protection strategies. Vincent wants to ensure that if anything ever happened to you, Maya and he would be protected. It's what any loving spouse would do. It sounded reasonable, but alarm bells were screaming. I want to read them, Victoria said. Carefully, of course. Thomas opened the folder and placed the documents before her. Pages and pages of legal jargon, words like irrevocable transfer, sole beneficiary, power of attorney, company dissolution provisions. Victoria's hands shook as she picked up the pen. This would transfer controlling interest in her firm to Vincent. This would give him power over her bank accounts. This would make him sole owner of their properties she had designed and paid for with her own work. I need time to review this with my own attorney, Victoria said. Of course, Thomas said, but his voice had changed, cold, clinical. But we really do need to finalize this tonight, for the paperwork to be filed properly before the end of the fiscal quarter. Victoria looked at Vincent. His eyes were ice, strange as eyes. Please, Victoria, Vincent said softly. Just sign. It's for our family's protection. And in that moment, everything clicked. The flowers, the romantic gestures, the perfect husband act. All designed to lower her guard, to make her trust him, to make her sign away everything she'd built. Victoria opened her mouth to refuse. "Mum, it's a trap. Don't sign anything." Maya was standing at the restaurant entrance, still in her school uniform, their driver Marcus behind her looking panicked. Maya had somehow convinced him to bring her here. She must have sensed something was wrong. Maya ran across the restaurant, her voice breaking. "Mom, it's a trap! Dad and Aunt Rebecca, I heard them, I recorded them." Victoria caught Maya as she crashed into her, holding her daughter tight. "It's okay, baby, I've got you." But Vincent's reaction was fury, pure rage. "You stupid child," he hissed, standing up. "You have no idea what you've just done." He grabbed Victoria's arm hard enough to bruise. "We are leaving. Now." "No," Victoria said, pulling away. "You're not taking her anywhere. That's not your decision anymore," Vincent said, and then he said the words that would shatter everything. "Because Maya isn't even my biological daughter. I had a DNA test done 3 months ago. She's not mine. Which means I have no legal obligation to you or her. But you have been committing fraud by naming me as her father on legal documents. When I'm done with you in court, when I prove you've been lying about paternity to steal from me, you'll lose everything. Your firm, your daughter, your freedom. Everything." The room spun. Maya wasn't Vincent's biological daughter. But Victoria hadn't known that. She had always believed Maya was his. There had been no one else. Or had there been? The memories of college, those early chaotic years. "When were you going to tell her?" Rebecca said suddenly, her voice cruel. She stood and walked to Vincent, taking his hand, an intimate, possessive gesture. "I was going to tell her after she signed," Vincent said coldly, "after she'd given me her company, her assets, everything. Then I was going to destroy her with the paternity fraud." "You knew," Victoria said, looking at Rebecca. "You helped him." Rebecca smiled. Not kindly, but with satisfaction. "Of course I knew. I've been with Vincent for 4 years, Victoria. 4 years. I've known everything. We've been waiting for the perfect moment. And today was supposed to be mine. Finally, I get what I deserve. The man, the money, the life that should have been mine from the start. 4 years. Her best friend of 23 years had been betraying her for 4 years. But there's more, Mum." Maya's voice cut through the devastation. "I recorded them, on Dad's phone. He left it unlocked and I recorded everything." Maya pulled out a phone, Vincent's phone, and pressed play. Vincent's voice, clear as day. "Once she signs, we transfer everything to offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. The firm, the properties, the investments. She'll be left with nothing. Will claims she's mentally unstable, that she falsified paternity documents, that she's an unfit mother. We'll take Maya." "No." Rebecca's voice interrupted on the recording. "We'll send Maya to boarding school in Switzerland, far away. She knows too much. She's too attached to Victoria. She needs to know more. I will remember you." The restaurant had gone completely silent. Police arrived within minutes. Someone had called 911 when Maya came running in. They separated Vincent and Rebecca from Victoria and Maya. They recorded everything. They seized Vincent's phone. But here's what Vincent and Rebecca didn't know, what Maya had discovered and was about to reveal. "Mom," said James.
"We are eyeing! We are fighting!"
"Mom," said Beaster. Maya said quietly, as the police took statements. "There's something else on Dad's phone. Something else I found." She pulled up a file folder. Inside were documents, dozens of them. Forged contracts, falsified building permits, bribery records. Evidence that Vincent's construction company had been cutting corners on major projects, including city buildings, including the River North Cultural Center that Victoria had designed. "He's been using your designs," Maya explained, her voice small but steady. "But he's been changing the specifications to use cheaper materials, dangerous materials. He's been pocketing the difference, millions of dollars, and he's been doing it for years. Victoria's blood ran cold. Those buildings could collapse. People could die. The recording gets worse, Mom, Maya continued. If she finds out about the building code violations before we get her signature, we're finished. The federal investigation is already circling. If they trace it back to the firm, to Hayes and Associates, Victoria goes down for it. But if we transfer ownership to us first, if we make it look like she was in charge when the violations happened, she takes the fall. We walk away clean, with everything. This wasn't just about betrayal or money. This was about setting Victoria up to take the fall for criminal negligence that could result in deaths. The police officer's expressions changed immediately. This was no longer just a domestic dispute. This was fraud, conspiracy, criminal negligence, attempted theft on a massive scale. Vincent and Rebecca were arrested that night, not released on bail. Held on multiple federal charges including conspiracy to commit fraud, criminal negligence, racketeering, and attempted grand theft. As the investigation unfolded over the following weeks, Victoria had to confront another truth. Who was Maya's biological father? With help from her attorney and a private investigator, Victoria traced back through her past. There had been someone, briefly, during a breakup with Vincent in their early 20s. His name was James, a fellow architecture student who had moved to Seattle after graduation. The investigator contacted him and explained the situation. James was shocked. He agreed to a DNA test immediately. 2 weeks later, the results confirmed it. James was Maya's biological father. He flew to Chicago immediately. When Victoria met him at a cafe in the Loop, he was exactly as she remembered. Kind eyes, gentle demeanor, the same thoughtful way of speaking. I have a daughter, he said, his voice full of wonder and regret. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't know, Victoria said honestly. Vincent and I got back together right after. I thought he was her father. I truly believed it. James looked at photos of Maya on Victoria's phone. She's beautiful. She looks like my sister. She's brilliant, Victoria said. Brave. She saved my life. I want to know her, James said, but I understand. This is complicated. I'm not here to take her from you. I'm here to protect her, and to protect you, from Vincent's accusations. The trial took place 6 months later, in the Northern District of Illinois Federal Court. Vincent and Rebecca faced multiple federal charges. The prosecution presented the recording, the forged documents, evidence of the building code violations, financial records showing millions diverted to offshore accounts. Maya testified. At 11 years old, she stood in that courtroom and spoke with a courage that made everyone weep. I recorded them because I knew they were planning something bad, she said. I knew my mum was in danger. I knew I had to protect her. Vincent's defense tried to argue that he was merely protecting his business interests, that Victoria had been complicit in the building violations. She hadn't. The evidence proved Vincent had forged her signatures on the altered specifications, but the evidence was overwhelming. Vincent was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison for fraud, criminal negligence, racketeering, and conspiracy. Rebecca received 12 years as an accomplice. But here's the twist that changed everything. During the trial, the investigation into the building violations revealed something stunning. The buildings Vincent had compromised, they hadn't collapsed yet, but they were ticking time bombs. The city of Chicago moved immediately to evacuate and reinforce them. And who did they hire to redesign and repair the structures? Victoria Hayes. The very woman Vincent tried to destroy became the one tasked with fixing his catastrophic mistakes. The city offered her the largest architectural contract in Chicago history, $500 million, to repair and redesign the compromised buildings. The irony was poetic. The justice was profound. 2 years after the trial, Victoria stood in her newly expanded office. Hayes and Associates had tripled in size. On her wall hung photos of the repaired buildings, now stronger and safer than ever. Maya, now 13, was flourishing. She spent time with both Victoria and James, who had relocated to Chicago to be close to his daughter. There was no custody battle, James and Victoria worked together cooperatively, united in their love for Maya. "You know what's funny?" Victoria said one evening, as she, Maya, and James shared dinner on her penthouse terrace overlooking Lake Michigan. "Vincent tried to take everything from me. And in trying to destroy me, he gave me something I never had before." "What's that?" James asked. "The truth," Victoria said. "The truth about who really loved me. The truth about my own strength. The truth about what but the other, touched in the morning, walked away from the pain, looking silent." "What, my darling? I think you were always this strong. You just didn't know it yet. Sometimes it takes someone trying to break you to realize you're unbreakable." Victoria pulled her daughter close. "When did you get so wise?" "I learned from the best," Maya said. Years later, Victoria sits in quiet reflection. She is no longer the woman who trusted blindly. She is no longer the woman who believed that giving everything meant receiving loyalty in return. She's a woman who survived the unsurvivable. A woman who watched her world merely collapse and found the strength to rebuild it into something even more magnificent. She learned the hardest lesson. The most important person you must love and protect is yourself. But she also learned something Vincent and Rebecca never understood. True power doesn't come from taking from others. True power comes from building something so strong, so authentic, so rooted in integrity, that no betrayal can destroy it. Vincent tried to steal her empire. Instead, he handed her a kingdom. Rebecca tried to steal her family. Instead, she helped Victoria find her real family, the one built on truth, not lies. And Maya, that brave 11-year-old girl who ran into a restaurant to save her mother. She grew up knowing that love isn't about perfection. Love is about standing up when it matters most. Love is about recording evidence when you sense danger. Love is about screaming, "It's a trap," when everyone else is silent. If you've watched Victoria's story and seen yourself in her pain, know this: you are not alone. There are thousands who've been betrayed by those they loved most. Thousands who've rebuilt their lives from ashes. Thousands who've learned that the person you need to protect most fiercely is yourself. But here's the truth: Vincent and Rebecca never learned. You cannot destroy what is built on truth. You cannot steal what is earned through excellence. You cannot take what is protected by love. Real love. The kind that records evidence and runs into restaurants and refuses to sign documents that don't feel right. Victoria's real victory wasn't the $500 million contract. It wasn't Vincent's prison sentence. It wasn't even keeping Maya. Her real victory was this: she stood up, she fought back, she survived, and she built something even more beautiful than what they tried to take. That's not just survival. That's resurrection. If you liked Victoria's story, if her journey moved you, if you believe stories like this need to be told and heard, please subscribe for more stories and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us, what would you do in Victoria's place? How would you survive? What would you fight for? Your words matter. Your voice matters. Your support matters. Until next time, remember this: you are stronger than you think. You are braver than you believe. And you deserve to be loved, especially by yourself. Thank you for being part of Victoria's story. Until we meet again.